Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the last session of Service Track. You know the saying that we save the best for last? Well, in this case, woo! In this case, all the presentations were excellent, but I also love this one especially because it's really engaging and it's a very unconventional use case of Service Desk. So I think you'll enjoy this one as well. Nathan joins us from Sotheby's. He has been working in IT for over 10 years with lots of experience working in JIRA and other Atlassian tools. Please join me in welcoming Nathan.
Thank you. Hi. So I'd like to start off with a question. Has anyone here ever bought a sculpture by Giacometti? No? Picasso painting? One? Thank you, Colin. A Monet? No. Okay. Has anyone here ever streamed anything on Spotify? Okay. So I thought that might be the case. It's going to be a tough crowd. So I'm going to start by explaining who we are, tell you a little bit about what one of our challenges is, explain how we are using JIRA Service Desk to try and meet that challenge, and I'll also try to quantify, well, has it been a success or not? So first of all, who are we? Now, everyone here obviously knows Spotify, and when I was looking at some of the other companies that were going to be presenting here at Summit, I noticed, well, Spotify there, that's interesting. Actually, the guys from Spotify here in the front row, thank you guys. So you can see there's some similarities there, both got an S towards the beginning of the name, both got a Y towards the end of the name, so a couple of similarities, but then I also started to think, but there's some fairly key differences between the companies as well. You know, Spotify are a very new, hip, young company. Sotheby's definitely are not. So I started to think, okay, how can I try to show some of these differences? First of all, how old are the companies? So Spotify, obviously, fairly new company, formed in 2008. President was this gentleman, Barack Obama, President of the United States. Anyone like to guess who was President of the United States when Sotheby's was founded? Sorry? Taft. Sorry? No, there wasn't. The president was this gentleman, King George II. Sotheby's founded in 1744, which means that it is older than this entire country, which is kind of weird. Obviously, that brings with it an awful lot of heritage and history. We are the oldest company listed on the New York Stock Exchange, which is obviously something we're very proud of. So we're an old company. Spotify are a new company. I started to think, well, who processes, how many transactions? So Sotheby's in 2014, we sold 40,000 works of art, or just over 40,000 works of art. Spotify, how many songs did they stream in 2014? Anyone? Guesses? It was over 100 billion songs. So in terms of the number of transactions that each company is processing, again, worlds apart. And I started to think, okay, so Spotify, they process a lot more transactions, but, well, what's the value of those transactions? So Sotheby's, you'll see there on the right, Munch's iconic painting, The Scream, sold at auction in New York in 2012 for in the region of $119 million, which was a world record for anything sold at auction at the time. So that's the kind of value of transaction that we process at Sotheby's. And at Spotify, you can listen to Miley Cyrus for $10 a month. And if you want to debate their relative artistic merits, then please find me after the presentation. So obviously some differences between Sotheby's and Spotify, but there are obviously some similarities as well because we're both using Atlassian products to try to improve the way that the businesses work. So what's our challenge? What's the challenge that one of the challenges that we're trying to meet at Sotheby's? So when people think of the auction business, they think of this. This is the moment when the picture is in the spotlight, the hammer's about to go down, the tension rises in the room, the bidding's going on, and this is what the auction business is about. It's a very exciting moment, and it's great. We all love the theatre of it. And that's part of what we do. This is, I think, Ollie Barker selling Warhol's Superman last year in New York. And this is what the auction business is. But it's also a lot of this. Everything which we sell needs to be inspected and authenticated and restored and catalogued and photographed. and that's something which goes with the Sotheby's brand name and is something that we bring to the market as well as all the heritage that we have. So everything that we sell needs to go through this process. There's also a lot of this. Everything that we sell, more or less, needs to be exhibited for a few days to the public before it goes up for auction. This is the Schlumberger collection on display in the 10th floor gallery of our New York offices. So everything needs to be hung for a few days for a public exhibition before the auction, which means we do a lot of this. All of the property that we need to sell needs to be moved around the building. It needs to be viewed, it needs to be inspected, and it needs to be hung for exhibition. And that's a challenge because we're talking about property which is worth millions and millions of dollars. It needs to be viewed by individuals who are often high net worth individuals, which means it's very important to make sure that the right piece of property is in the right place at the right time. Another challenge is that we don't just sell paintings. I guess it's what we're known for, but we also sell furniture, we sell wine, we sell porcelain, we sold a spaceship, we sell cars, we sold a mushroom. There's a huge number of different kinds of things that we sell. We did sell a very expensive truffle. And all these things need to be moved. And obviously, if you're moving a painting, that's one thing. If you're moving a car or if you're moving a Soyuz space capsule, it's got different kind of parameters that go around it. So what was the problem? That process is run by 13 crew chiefs who manage around 34 property handlers. In 2014, we offered just over 20,000 lots for sale in New York, and that involved over 200,000 individual property moves within our New York offices. And that was all managed by an endless number of emails and phone calls. And obviously that's not ideal in a 21st century office. There's no metrics, there's no reporting, there are no SLAs, there's no visibility of what's going on. And clearly that's not ideal. So the solution, JIRA Service Desk. So why did we choose JIRA Service Desk? If you'll excuse me a brief diversion, and I'll try and explain why I'm up here talking to you. I don't work for our operations team. I don't work for our help desk. I work for our SAP team. I'm an applications guy. I'm an SAP developer. And we already use Atlassian products within our software development teams. So we use JIRA for managing our agile development processes. We use Bitbucket, or our Java team uses Bitbucket for managing their code base. And we use Confluence for documentation, knowledge sharing, and we also use it for deciding who's going to buy a beer on a Friday afternoon. So we're used to Atlassian products. We find them easy to use, easy to set up, and flexible to an organization's needs. I joked a little bit earlier about some of the differences between Sotheby's and a company like Spotify, but one of the similarities is that we now have a younger, more tech-savvy workforce, and they expect the applications they use every day to be always available, easy to use, and mobile-enabled, and that's part of what we get with JIRA Service Desk. So how did we roll it out? At the end of 2014, we downloaded the free trial. We spent about a week playing with it, configuring it, setting up some very basic workflows. And then at the beginning of this year, we rolled it out initially to the agents. The agents are the people who are moving the property around, or the crew chiefs who are managing the property handlers. So the agents were the ones who were executing the tasks. And we rolled it out to them, first of all, just so that we could iron out any issues in the process, any technical issues, before we rolled it out to the customers. And the customers, we rolled out a portal to them at the beginning of Q2 2015. And the customers are people who are requesting a property move. So if I'm somebody who works, an administrator, for example, who works in our Impressionist department or our Contemporary department or our Decorative Arts department, I'd make a request via the portal to move a piece of property to a certain location. So what does that process look like? First of all, we have a portal. So if something needs to be catalogued or filmed or photographed or moved to a different location for a client viewing or for some restoration, instead of just sending an email, then it means that people now have to go and log onto the portal and make a request for that particular kind of move. And that means that we've moved away from email overload. Like so many organizations, people are tied to their BlackBerry, they're tied to Outlook, and they're usually just firing off an email and hoping that it happened. So it's been a big change for the company and the people who are using this tool to try and get away from that email overload. You can see that we've codified the data which is being entered now. So instead of unstructured free-form text, which people will put into an email, we can now codify the information by request types. So you can see if I'm requesting the receipt of this property, then I can say this is for the antiquities department, or this is for the Americana department, or this is for books. Which means that we get the information that we need up front in a structured way, which means that it can be easily collected, is easily visible, and is easy to report on. And then this is what the agents will see. So this is a request for cataloging some property for our contemporary art department. You can see that it's going to need 2 handlers to move this particular piece of property. I can see what the sale number is there, and I can see that it needs to be unframed. So the person who receives this issue in their queue can immediately tell what do I need to do and how many people do I need to go and achieve this particular task. You can see that we've also made heavy use of the commenting functionality. So there's internal comments there between the different crew chiefs or property handlers to decide what needs to be done. There's comments going back to the customer or to the requester, and then the requester is responding to those comments with more information. So previously that was all done via email or via conversation, which now means that we've got greater collaboration between the different parties and also improved visibility. If somebody's out on vacation or off sick or doing something else, instead of saying, well, hang on, Dave's not here, what was happening with this particular issue? Somebody can now go into JIRA or JIRA Service Desk and have a look. I can immediately see this is what the current situation is. We set up customized queues. So there's a new custom field here that we set up, target date and time. Instead of working by just days in terms of lead time, a lot of the things that we do need to be done by 4 o'clock this afternoon or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, which means there's a fairly hard deadline for most of the tasks that we have. So these queues are sorted by target date and time, which means in theory, anybody who's monitoring a particular queue or working on a particular queue, the items which are at the top of that queue are the next ones that they need to execute. And we also have a status over there on the right-hand side waiting for departmental response. So if the department hasn't given us enough information to move that particular piece of property, we set that status, request more information, and then we know we can't really act on that ticket until we get the next piece of information that we need. The customers are making great use of the portal as well, so they can go on and see the status of the request that they have already logged. So I can see for the things that I've created, what's the current situation? Have they been assigned? Are they in progress? Have they been closed? And I can also see if I've been added as a participant onto a request created by somebody else. Again, I have visibility of that. Which means that there's been a reduction in waste, because typically what happens, I'm sure many of you will know, if you request something and it just disappears into the ether, then you're sending a follow-up email or a phone call saying, where is this? Did you get it? Is it in progress? So the visibility that the portal gives us means that the amount of waste has been reduced. We've got a system dashboard, which shows what's the current health of the operations department, essentially. So I've blurred out some of the names to protect the guilty or innocent or whatever, however you want to phrase it. But if one person has got too many items which are assigned to them, or there's a real problem somewhere, then managers are able to go and look at this dashboard and divert their resources more effectively to say, we need more people on this floor, we need more people in this department because there's a large number of open calls. So again, the visibility that we get from JIRA Service Desk is a huge benefit to that kind of resource balancing. Phase 1 was complete. We had an operations service desk. Everything was going pretty smoothly. So what was phase 2? Sotheby's in New York is based in a large office building on the Upper East Side, and it needs all of the things that a large New York office building needs. It needs to be cleaned. People need coffee. Their trash needs to be emptied. Things need painting. Things need fixing. So we have a facilities department who do all of those things. And you can probably see where this is going. We set up a facilities service desk as well. So using the same logon and the same portal, or a similar portal to what we did for our ops team, we now did the same thing for facilities. So if I need a meeting room configured in a certain way, or if I need a box to be recovered from the archives, then I can go onto the facilities portal and make that request. You can see here a genuine example from our production system. Obviously a big problem in the shipping team one morning, the coffee machine was out of order. And what I like about this one, and I swear this is a genuine request, is that 5 different people have been added as participants to this one. So as soon as the coffee machine was fixed, 5 people get an email saying the coffee machine is fixed. You can go and get your caffeine, and obviously for productivity, that was huge on that particular day. The other thing that the facilities team have really made the most of is the fact that Service Desk is mobile enabled. They're using the JIRA Connect app, which means that they are walking around with their cell phone, or cell phone, iPad, whatever it is, their personal device, and that contains a real-time list of what are the tasks that I need to be working on. These guys they're electricians, they're carpenters, they're painters, they're cleaners. They're not tied to a desktop, they're not tied to a desk. They don't want to have to go back to a central place to find out what's the next thing that I need to go and work on. They have a constantly updated task list in their pocket, which means that they're able to immediately move on to the next thing in their priority list without having to go back to somebody to say, boss, what's next, or go and have a look at their email inbox, because it's all there on their personal mobile device. So we have 2 service desks that have currently been rolled out, and the question that most people want to say is, was it a success? And I'm sure this is where the guys from Atlassian want me to put up a bunch of statistics saying that we are 50% more efficient and we are 30% better at meeting our SLAs and we are 20% happier. And I honestly can't do that. And the reason I can't do that is because we didn't have a baseline. Everything before was done in emails, so nobody knew how many property moves we were doing or how long things were taking to be done or what the priority of those calls were, because there was no data. So now JIRA Service Desk has become our baseline because we now have data that we can measure against. So if you ask me in a year's time, have we improved? Hopefully I'll be able to say yes. Sorry, Christoph, Caroline, I can't say that yet, but maybe next year. What I can say is that we've had over 360 individual customers sign up in 2015. They've raised over 15,000 requests in that time. And as I said, we now have data that we can report on. So I can see that over the course of this year, since we first rolled out Service Desk, for the high priority tickets, we've kept at a fairly good time to resolution, average of 2 hours. The lower priority tickets, that's crept up over the course of the year. So we now have data that we can analyze, and who doesn't love data that they can analyze? Have we learned some lessons? Of course. Of course we have. You're going to learn some lessons when you do something like this. The first lesson is that we needed to avoid bottlenecks. So initially, especially when we rolled out the Ops Service Desk, there was a bottleneck where calls were being assigned, so they were all routed through 1 or 2 people before they were assigned out. That was creating problems, creating a slowdown in the process because tickets weren't reaching the right person quickly enough. So we've decentralized that. We've set up more personalized queues that more people can monitor. So by removing that bottleneck, we're keeping the machine better oiled, I think. The second thing is to ensure there's oversight of the process. It's great to be able to roll out this new tool and say we're going to start creating and closing tickets now and hope that everyone's going to use it. But unless somebody is actually going and checking on those tickets to make sure they're being closed and monitoring that process, then it's still a little bit like the Wild West. So somebody still needs to be monitoring it and keeping an eye on what's going on with the JIRA Service Desk tickets. And then the third and final lesson that we learned is, yes, JIRA is easy to use. I've been quoted in the past of saying if you can use Facebook, you can use JIRA Service Desk, and I think that's probably true. But there are some of the more advanced features like filtering, subscriptions, some of the searching functionality, which if you're a heavy JIRA user is very intuitive. But if you're new to the system, as a lot of our crew chiefs were, then it's more difficult for them to go and set up the personalized filters that they might need. So there is an element of training that you need to put into your rollout plan, even though it is an intuitive system to use. And I'm now going to bring things right up to date. There was a sale last night in New York, a collection of Alfred A. Taubman, the former owner of Sotheby's. It's the most valuable collection of property ever to be offered for sale. Last night's auction raised over $377 million, which is, not chump change. And that was all partly enabled through JIRA Service Desk. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. So we have a few minutes for Q&A. So the first question was, cloud versus server, how did you decide, and which one are you on?
We're on cloud.
Okay.
Just because as I said, we already used Atlassian products for, we have Confluence and JIRA. JIRA for our software rollouts. They were all cloud-based, so we just said we're going to go cloud-based for this as well.
When you were rolling out Service Desk, did you encounter any resistance from non-technical staff?
Yes. A little bit, yeah. Initially, there was that thought, well, I understand how to send an email. I don't understand why I have to go and log on to this website and create a user ID and a password because there's no single sign-on in the cloud yet, hint, hint, Atlassian. So yeah, there was a little bit of pushback, but once people have got set up with the ID and they've saved it on their desktop and they've saved their password, then it's fairly simple. You just need to explain to them it's a website. It's like you're going to check your bank or check your Gmail or whatever it is. You just go there to check the status of your requests or log the requests. And once you start to explain it like that, then we kind of got past some of those barriers.
Did you use any automation, or is there automation in the future?
There may be some automation in the future if and when we get to rolling the service desk out for IT. At the moment, it's a fairly basic workflow in terms of tickets are raised and assigned and they're acted on and closed, so we haven't had a huge need for automation.
The next question is, so you have a lot of service desks. How many agents do you have, and how do you manage the process of managing multiple service desks?
We have 2 service desks, and we have probably in the region of 30 agents. At the moment, it's something that I'm still learning is how to manage those 2 service desks and the agents in there. At the moment, I'm just the guy who people come to. I need a new agent, so I go and set them up. So that's something that I don't have a good answer for that because I'm still learning that one.
Actually, I think that's all the questions we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. So we have Ship It Live happening now. But thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the service talk. Thank you. Have a great day.